Ask the Podcast Coach for January 19th, 2019.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that fun-filled music. That means, hey, it's Saturday, and you have found yourself at the only podcast that will answer your podcast questions live. Welcome to Ask the Podcast Coach. I'm your host, Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com. Joining me right over there from the one and only AverageGuy.tv. You know him, you love him. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Jim Cullison from the AverageGuy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Chilly, super chilly. We're sending some cold weather your way, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Saturday morning here in Omaha.
They have a thing here in my apartment complex that anytime it gets below like 25, they put up these signs. It's like, it's cold, basically. Please, and they want you to leave your water dripping so that pipes don't freeze. And I'm like, it's not, this isn't like Antarctica. I'm like, and they're like, don't turn off your heat. I'm like, what idiot is like, hey, you know what? It's going to be 18 tonight. I think I'll turn off my heat. I'm like, do we really? It's one of those things you're like, okay, do we have to point out the obvious? I guess we do.
Jason says it's -1 where he's at. Jason, where are you? Where are you? That would be -1. That guy, he travels. He sees some world destinations for sure.
Yeah, he's always in some sort of something stan. It's like I'm in Gushgushstan or whatever. But
I have a 14-hour drive this weekend, and I could literally get 1 week of Jason Bryant's podcasting, and it wouldn't be enough time to listen to it. So there's a guy that listens to a lot. We've got a calling number now, right?
We do have a phone number. You can call in. It's 330-294-9393. And you can always join us. We're at askthepodcastcoach.com/live. But that number again is not that. I don't know where the jingle is for that, but
it's a good.
David Lee Roth wants to call in apparently. I forgot I swapped that out. But
can you put tabs or like labels on those buttons?
What they do is they gave you. Yes. Yesterday they gave me. It's a little whiteboard kind of thing that if I had a. What do you call those pens that aren't permanent? Dry erase.
Dry erase, yeah.
Yeah, if I had a dry erase marker, I could go ahead then and write what's on what. Now, what I'm doing is they have this little program that allows you to, so I just pulled it up and I can see that the yellow button is indeed David Lee Roth. And I was like, that is not really what I was going for.
You were looking for the
yeah. And what's fun is I can now drag that over. It's copying as we speak. So now I can say, hey, if you want to call in, that number is 330-294-9393. That's again 330-294-9393. And the fun thing is you do have to use the right slider because I'm turning down the phone as I do that. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's not adjusting the volume of the music. I wonder what's going on. So
hey, you could, with that kind of functionality, right? Since you can load those sound bites kind of in real time, and you're doing it via the PC, you could almost use that where you have a producer, like say you're not taking live calls, but people are sending you voicemails or those kinds of things. They could be loading those. You could be taking questions live, not have to actually talk to the person. Just let them leave a question. Then you could have a producer be loading those. And all you'd have to do is the podcaster is hit the button. When it's ready, they could say, hey, ready to go. You just hit it locally. And that could be done remotely. Like you could have somebody in another country doing that. That would be pretty cool. They'd have to have remote access to your PC
computer. I'm going to say,
yeah. Shared access.
But speaking of phone calls, we actually got one after last week when you came on via the phone, and this is Ben.
Hey, Dave. My name is Ben Kolb. I'm a huge fan of your show. Had a quick question. I host a show that is primarily interview based, and I've been geeking out looking at the new Rodecaster Pro. But hearing your Ask the Podcast Coach episode where you had the listener call in, I wasn't super impressed with that audio of the cell phone call in. And I was just curious, if it is mainly an interview show, would you think I'm better off going with Zencastr than I would be going with the Rodecaster Pro to get audio from a call-in show? So thanks so much, and look forward to hearing your answer. You are amazing and belong in the Hall of Fame for a reason. Thanks, man.
Well, that's nice to say. Thank you. So I thought about this and I was like, because I think last week, Jim, how did you call in? You like went through Skype to Google to
No, it wasn't that hard. It was just this. I was in the studio, so using this mic, all this stuff here. But I just used. There's a call feature. You can call out with Gmail, so
Okay.
it's just dialing out via Gmail.
because I thought it sounded okay. It was listenable. So I actually did a little production work this morning and I did my best. I grabbed the trusty Blue Yeti and I put it in the position that I believe is pick up in every direction. I kind of listened to where I got the most room noise and I put it about, I don't know, 1.5 feet away. And it sounded at the time pretty bad in my headphones, but this is what it sounded like. All right, so this is the horrible audio of a Blue Yeti. He said tapping the desk. Let me type something here for you. There we go. And I'm now going to go out of the room and talk on my cell phone. So that's a typical pretty Blue Yeti sound, right? It's not, to me, I would say it's the difference of somebody being in your head versus you being in the room. There's a difference. So, and then what I did was I used Uber Conference, which is if you're going to use any kind of free conference calling, they produce a file that is 96, let's get our geek on, 96 kilobits per second mono, which is much better than all these free conference calling and all those other things, which is like horrible. But this was me on my cell phone calling me on the Blue Yeti.
All right, so this is me talking on the cell phone to the Uber conference. It's snowy outside here in Ohio, and I got about an hour till this show goes live, so I better shut up so we can vote on which was the best audio.
So that's the phone. All right, so this is the horrible audio. That's the Yeti. So I was like,
all right, so this is me talking.
All right, so this is the horrible. So I to me, I thought the Yeti. As much as I hate to say a Blue Yeti.
Better or worse?
All right, so this is the horrible audio.
All right, so this is.
See, here's the difference. It's the echo. The phone feels like they're right in my face.
Yeah. By the way, it's super cool that you can play these clips like we're doing. Like, that's a cool part of this of what you're doing.
Well, the key I have found as I've used this more with this. This is meant for like noises. It's not really meant for like the end music where I mentioned this in my review last week on the School of Podcasting. If I really wanted to use this, I would have a different ending for the school, for the Ask the Podcast Coach. I would have something like, hey, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you again next week. And then I would hit a button and then it would say, thanks for listening to Ask the Podcast Coach. If you want to, or some sort of ending. But if you're trying to talk up an ending, where if I'm using something, which I thought I had open, but apparently I don't. If you're using something like Backpack Studio, which in theory, let me turn this down a little bit. If I do this, maybe not. No, that's weird. This will not play the music, even though I'm Bluetoothed into the phone because I'm using the phone now, which kind of makes sense. You can't do both. Now, in theory, if I was smart, what I would have done is done this on my iPad and plug the iPad into the other phone jack. That would have worked. But this does show me, if I unplug this, how much time we have left on that file. So if you want to do a talk up, that's what I used to do on my other little gizmo. So
does the software interface have a countdown on the clips that you add to it? Is there something there? Because that's all you really want, right? Is a countdown of the clip?
A countdown. Yeah. Not there's nothing on the.
That's too bad. That's a miss.
And that's where I was like, yeah, I'm like, as a jingle thing, it's great for, except that's, now I'm thinking it's David Lee Roth and it's not. If it's, that's the other thing. I hate the fact that, this one is, well, I can fix this. That's not set up to what they call latch. There we go. Nope. See, I hate this. Stop. There we go. Finally. That drives me nuts. And I want one. They have either replay, which is what we had, where every time I hit it, it kept doing it. They have latch, which means when I hit it, stop. But when I hit it again, it starts from the beginning. I want one that's pause. So I can hit stop, comment on it, hit again, and keep going from where I'm at. They don't have that option. And then they have one called play, which is interesting, which means once I hit start, it's not stopping. You have to, and it's for let's say I'm doing a radio show and I want to do a radio spot. I can hit play, and if I accidentally bump the board, it's going to keep playing. So I get that, but I was like, I want one to let me pause. In fact, there's no pause on this thing at all. While I'm recording, if we make a big boo-boo and I hit stop on the recording, I can easily go back and hit start again, but now I got 2 files. There's no pause. And I was like, I kind of wish I had a pause button.
Yeah, that's so countdown would be nice, and then more buttons than just play, because it's play and pray, right? That you got the right one, kind of deal. If
I keep this thing up, or if I'd use their little right board thing to keep in track, because I have
but still, say you had a long clip and you had a long clip loaded on A, you had a short clip loaded on B, and you hit A when you meant B. Yeah. Now you have to listen through the long clip. I mean, you could, right? Is there a way to stop it?
No, here's the thing. Let me do that. I'll play our music. So, so if I hit this and it's wrong, and I'm like, oh crap. The only way to get this to really, I think if I hit, because I have it set, I can hit that.
Okay.
But in some cases, let's say I could do this, where if I hold the button down, I see that one set up to stop. But if it wasn't, you can hold the button down, and after I think it's 3 seconds, it'll go, oh, he must really want this to stop. Okay. So you can, in that case, you just turn down the volume, hit the button, hold it down 3 seconds, and pray that it stopped, because you can't hear it anymore because you turned the volume down. So it's got its little pros and cons and things like that.
Does it have a feed, or does it have a button where it's like it'll send them to the feed, or you can mute all the sounds? Is there a mute for those, where like you could mute those?
It's weird. There's a mute for every channel except the jingles.
Except the clips.
Okay. Yeah, which there's a slider. I mean, I could drag the slider over there.
Yeah. No, it's a workflow thing. I don't think it's bad. It's just a workflow thing. It's getting to know your equipment, know how it works, set it up optimally. Your intro and exit music, I add those in post, because you never know.
Right.
You just never know. Although, now saying that, I think when you play your music live and you record it the way we do it, it adds a sense of urgency to the ending, because it's coming close. And so when you always throw it to me at the end, hey Jim, what's going on over at the AverageGuy.tv? I kind of know I've got maybe 20 seconds, and I can't go forever like I normally do. So it adds a sense of urgency. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things I know I'm always looking at. I know at 11 seconds is when I have to say, thanks so much, fade up the music. And about the time it gets up to the normal volume, we'll get to the end of that fun-filled little gizmo. So, but so
back to the phone call.
I was going to say, what was your answer on Yeti or this sounds like what was the old commercial?
Well,
this or that?
Yeah, this or that. Well, I mean, there's 2 questions there. One is this or that. I think I would rather in a long conversation, I wouldn't want to listen to either. Just to be honest, like they're neither one of them are good enough that if it's and I think the question is like, how poor of quality can you get away with for how long? And I think if you're doing a super long interview, the flatter one is easier to listen to. So that would be the phone. The flatter one is the easier one to listen to. The Yeti with the space, man, that space messes with your mind after a while. I mean, you as a listener, I think you really have to start forgiving it on a regular basis. If you're listening to an interview, you guys did the most recent Podcasters Roundtable, and one of the callers was coming in on a mic it was the camera mic or something. Well, she wasn't really there long enough for it to make a difference. So when she came on, you kind of forgave the sound. But if it's only that person, or if they have, like in this show where I might have a long monologue where I'm doing something, man, that gets painful. That room sound just gets painful to listen to after a while. So I would rather, I think if you're going to make an error, I would err on the side of a phone call than having that. And basically, when you set that Yeti up, Dave, you set it up as a cam mic because it's far away. I wish you would have done one up close where you took that mic and got it where it needed to be, which is right in front of your face.
Well, I was just trying to create like I did a interview with somebody on the Logical Weight Loss podcast, and it's weird because anytime I do any interviews over there, I'm like, oh yeah, these people aren't podcasters,
right?
And she was straight up using her laptop mic, and via the magic of Isotope RX7, I was able to kind of salvage that a little bit. And it wasn't horrible. It was, it was,
All right, so this is the horrible audio.
it was not great, but I was able to go in and do a little deverb. But I was just thinking, because I hear, especially on Anchor calls, on people using Anchor, they're putting the iPad in the middle of the room, hitting record, and there's 4 guys, and 3 of them are on the other side of the room. There was one, I can't remember the name of the show. It did have the word dick in it. I thought that was funny. I was like, because that's not gonna get past Apple. But it was like one guy's like, yo, this is my boy. And then like the other guys are literally like in another state. And I was like, that's just not gonna work, fellas. And that's what I was trying to kind of recreate. I like, really, because if the phone is bad, like, how bad of, come on, camera. How can I get the a Yeti is typically our thing of making it easy for me to say. I can't talk and make my camera focus
at the same time.
Yeah, so I was trying to make it sound really horrible, and technically that's where I went. That's really not as bad as I've heard.
No. Well, but in most cases, your guests aren't going to have a Yeti that they're setting 1.5 feet away. They're going to have a camera mic that is worse than that. Like, it's really boomy and tinny and echoey and lots of rooms. I gotta stop saying that. She keeps coming on when I say that
A
word.
noun room is usually defined as a portion of space within a building or other structure, separated by walls or partitions from other parts.
Hold on, we just got to let her
Did that
finish.
answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Thank you. So wonderful.
You're welcome.
You just went room sound. Okay.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. So this is my camera microphone, which it was funny. I did a video yesterday, and I get done, and because I always look at my Camtasia, and I will switch this back because I know you're like, good God, that sounds horrible.
Ears are bleeding.
Yes. And so if I now go back to the Rodecaster Pro, in theory, yes.
It's like getting in a warm bathtub.
Yeah. So that's again, what was that worse than?
All right, so this is me talking on the.
It's a toughie.
That is hard.
I wish I could remember the name of the show. Mark Johansson told me about it, and it was some guy that wrote. I think it's Millions or Billions. He's written a couple TV shows for Showtime, and he had Seth Godin on, and they were talking about podcasting and how great it is. But they literally had one microphone on a table with 2 of them, and if you look at the audio, even towards the end, it gets like way too quiet because they've gone from being very passionate about something and yes, this is great and blah blah blah. Now they're like, yeah, that's that was a time when I did this and that. And I'm like, I'm having a hard time hearing you with the background noise and plus your volumes. I just like, who is editing this? And I'm like, the answer is nobody. But that's one where I was like, this is one of those situations where if this was, Frick and Frack and not whoever this famous person's name in that I can't remember and Seth Godin, I wouldn't be listening to this. I would have ejected. So I was kind of like, is this an example where content will trump bad audio? And I'm like, but this is such a rare occasion. You know what I mean? I was like, So
I think, so you're doing an interview and you sound good, right? And your guest is, say you're bringing in Barack Obama, right? You've got our former president. The audience is going to forgive a lot of bad sound for a short interview or even fairly lengthy with them if the content is good, because it's who he is, right? Or Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, right? People are going to forgive those things. If we did this every week, Dave, and I came in this every week like I came in last week using Google. By the way, I think Uber Conference is the problem. I've been thinking about this. I think, we mentioned, I think that call went analog as soon as it got to Uber Conference, and then you just have an analog phone call. So to answer the question, the original question way back when I forget who it was, who?
That was Ben.
Ben. So when Ben jumped in and asked that question, I think Uber Conference is the block on that. No matter who you have call in, we'd have to test this.
Yeah, I would. I'm going to put, not that anybody's going to call. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. That is my Skype, which right now, again, I don't know if that'll work. Skype won't work because it's on this phone, and I would have to hang up with Call in Studio to take that, which I guess I would. in theory. But I
think people calling in, it doesn't matter. Like I listened to the whole show last week. It wasn't weird. I mean, my audio wasn't great, but I wasn't on that long, and then I was gone.
Right.
And so I just don't think if somebody called in for call-in stuff like that, if that's your full-time guest and they're coming in that way, try to do better. Like if you can't, you can't. But if you can, then I would use one of those other services that's more digital and not analog.
Yeah, because I know in the Rodecaster video that Rode has, they mentioned Slack, which I have used Slack to do calls. That's pretty slick, or Skype. Yep. And I'm like, and it would just be a case where, like right now, I'm trying to do two things. I'm dialed into callinstudio.com and I have Skype open. Well, you can't do both. You have to pick one or the other. But yeah, and for me, the one that I will eject on is when I hear the host on the phone and the guest is on the phone. That's when I'm like, man, we're done. We're like, I can't take that more for.
Isn't that just Blog Talk Radio?
Yeah. Or somebody's done freeconferencecall.com.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's again, to kind of go deep in the weeds, it's instead of being sampled at 44.1, it's like at 22. So there's not a lot of paint on the brush. And then they export it like 32 kilobits per second. So it's like beyond AM radio. It's just, so, but it's free. So,
there's so many better free ways to do it. Just what we're doing here, using Google Hangouts is a great way to record interviews. Everybody always says the audio is so bad and it's compressed. It's not as good as it could be. But for most people, it's better than anything you're going to do putting your own solutions together.
Well, the other thing is, as you know, Jim, one of my hobbies is forgetting to press record.
Exactly.
And there have been many times that I have used the first 15 minutes from Google Hangouts and then finally wedged in the audio that I've recorded. And I've never had somebody go, hey, what happened? Like for the first 10 minutes, the show sounded awful. It's really not that, again, like you said, it's a little compressed. The music especially kind of sounds, but the just us talking is not that big a deal.
No, I think there's some folks who said some pretty poor things about it when it first came out. And I think those things stuck. And I wish it would get better. There's some other technologies that have come out that Google could have latched onto. They're degrading the service. It's eventually Hangouts will fully merge into YouTube, and YouTube services be available there. I'd love to see some upgrades to it. There's just not a lot of money in this, and you and I are consuming bandwidth that we're not paying for, and somebody's paying for it. So I don't know how much longer these services will be around, but this is a great way, I think, to get an interview done. You can also do this if you only have someone's cell phone. They can call into a Hangout like this on their phone, and it's 100% digital. So they'll be coming off their whatever mic they're using on that thing, whether it's the phone. By the way, they get that phone close enough to them, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds good.
Well, and that's different than what we're doing. That's a Hangout, not a
true.
Whatever the heck this is.
True.
What do we call this now? Is it YouTube Live? Is it?
Well, yeah, it's in a weird spot. Yeah, Google Hangouts still. There's still the tab still says Google Hangouts. So let's just go with that. But it will move into the live infrastructure.
I was. This is kind of up your alley. I was very happy. Well, I was very happy. I was bummed. I just spent, I think it was $65 on a Chromecast because I went to go get the Chromecast 1 because I just wanted to stream YouTube videos. I don't really need the 4K. But that was the only one available, and I really wanted a Chromecast because in the morning now, it's weird. I'm watching YouTube. I'm doing the gym thing. I'm like, you know what? There's some good stuff on YouTube. So I've been watching. I have subscriptions now, and I can go in. I do hate the fact that on an iPad, there's no way to speed up the video, and the interface is a little clunky. But James Cridlin announced on podnews.net that shocking that Google would want to kill something, but they're going to kill Chromecast. And I was like, what? And Jim, any idea? Is that because I noticed on my phone, if I had an Android phone, which I don't, I can stream to my TV in the living room.
Yeah.
Is that it? It's just it's
No.
not needed anymore.
No, I just don't think there's no great monetization opportunities there with Chromecast. Super cheap hardware. Yeah, it streams, so I can take my Android phone or my iPhone or whatever start a video and then cast it to my TV. But there's so many great devices now that just do that already, that I can have an NVIDIA Shield, my Xbox, my PS2, or PS3 or PS4, whatever we're at. I think it's a 4. With that, there's so many, and then now we have Roku's. We have Apple's got their TV player. We've got Amazon's in there with the Fire Stick.
Right.
It's a very crowded market, and there's no monetization options on the Chromecast. Chromecast was originally just something that came out of Google as an experiment. Like, hey, let's try this thing.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see if they come back with like a YouTube Red box, because then like it would be easy. Just plug the kind of like, because that's what Amazon. I have a Fire TV box, and I fire it up, and it takes me right to Amazon, and from there I can go to Hulu or Netflix or watch stuff on Amazon. And they're always, they're really starting to advertise pretty heavy on that now. It's like, hey, it's other stuff. It's like, look, watch this on Showtime. I'm like, what? Okay. Or if a new movie comes out on Amazon, so it's like, which to me, I remember, I guess I'm just cheap. I remember when streaming movies should be like $2, and now it's like when a movie, like if I wanted to watch, I don't know, probably Bohemian Rhapsody or something that's like just came out of the theater, it's like $7. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't it like $9 in the theater? I'm like, that's not really. I'm looking for it to be much cheaper than.
No, it's those services have all crept up. It's like we all cut the cable, so we were all paying $130 for cable. We all clipped that cable and then went a la carte, and all of a sudden Hulu went from free to $3 to $7 to $15. And you're like, whoa. What? Hey guys, pretty soon I'm spending the same amount of money on a la carte that I spent on cable. And yeah, in this space, TVs are now coming smarter, so there's apps on the TVs. So I think it's buying a TV today is a crazy space. By the way, your TV behind you, Dave.
Yes.
You've had a little drama on this thing as far as getting it set. I mean, it's not as easy as you thought it would be, right?
Well, it's one of those things where Scott Orr, listener to the show, mentioned that, hey, Dave, your head blocks about 60% of the TV.
Yeah.
And I went, well, and he gave me a great shot of like Jon Stewart or insert news person who has like the story. Like today we had a fire in Poughkeepsie, and they put a picture next to his head of the house on fire. That's not really what this is. This is more just, I don't know, background,
right?
Yeah. And so it's here, and you'll see here on Ask the Podcast Coach, it's got, it's got our awesome subscribers or our awesome supporters on there, like Shane. But there it is. There's the phone number. So if you want to call in, it's 330-294-9393. But it's just there. And then the other thing, it dawned on me that if I have that change too often, it becomes distracting, because I in a way, it's weird. I want it there for background, but I don't want it to be too distracting, because, well, I want you to listen to whatever the heck I'm talking about. And so it was kind of an experiment, and I thought it'd be cool when, I had the pictures in the background, and Daniel J. Lewis said, hey, you should get like a big 40-inch TV and put it back there. And I was like, that's a great idea. And now I did it. And then the whole other thing is lighting. I have, like right now, I have 2 lights directly to each side of me, pointing me this way. And if we wanted to get crazy, if I had a video person in there to go, yeah, you need a spot here because your forehead's getting a little dark. I think I look okay. Everything's a little beige. Oh, you know why? Alexa, turn off The Office. And because I muted her because we said that earlier.
Yes, yeah.
Alexa, turn off The Office. Because I'm like, why am I so beige? And she's completely ignoring me. Seriously, Alexa, turn off The Office. There we go. No, I'm not so beige. That's some great audio there, Dave. For the next 3 minutes, Dave's going to argue.
He's going to shout at his Amazon device.
I swear the one downstairs, it's like version 1 of whatever it was called, the Echo or whatever. I swear it's getting old and it's getting hard of hearing. I have to literally shout at her.
You need to take it to the doctor and have their ears cleaned out.
Exactly. So,
well, but I think, you're putting a TV or putting media behind you. Most people would just green screen it. That's kind of the easiest way to get this done. It takes some horsepower. You have to have the right cards and software and all those other kinds of things. Also, with a TV or a monitor behind you, it's got to be dark. You got to tune that thing almost down to where you can't see it. We see it a lot better than Dave does. If Dave turns around and looks at his TV,
Oh, yeah. It's
dark.
very dark.
And you saw when you moved, you saw your laptop down below. That's running that thing. That's at regular brightness, and yeah, and like it's an explosion of light, right? That's the kind of the way this works. And like you said, you sometimes have it. You're just throwing, and I see you've even set some of the graphics so they're either all the way to the left, or all the way to the right, or all the way to the top. So that's another way to get around it. You could you could swing that thing into portrait. You have it in landscape. You could go portrait mode, and actually, not that I'm telling you should do this, but you could go portrait with two. You could go portrait with two and have them on either side of you, and then there's really some powerful things you can do. To your point, though, we get too flashy with these things, and they get distracting. And I've been looking at you for the last half hour. I stopped looking at what's behind you. Like right. I'm no longer now paying attention. So the audience, there's limited exposability, if I can use that word.
Yeah, and there comes a time when if you give too much, like Vegas. When I go to Vegas, which I haven't been in a while, but anytime I ever went to an event or something out there, it's always weird when I get home and I get off the plane in Cleveland, and I'm in Cleveland Airport, but usually it's like late at night or something like that. And just for good old Simon and Garfunkel, the sound of silence is deafening. And it doesn't dawn on you until you get someplace that's not Vegas. Because even in the Vegas airport, it's ding, 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 there's more slots and blah, blah, blah. So when you finally get off the plane and it's not and lights and blinking, and it's like there's so much stimulus there that it's kind of nice to. It's weird because you don't notice it. You start to kind of tune it out because you're just used to the background being. It's like I have whatever it is, the thing where your ears ring all the time, and I don't really notice it until I start to listen for it, and I'm like, yep, there it is. So it's kind of that same thing. It's I think after a while there's just so much blinking lights and things that you kind of go, okay. And plus after a while you go, I think I've seen all 7 slides now. So but it's not really meant for, it's just, I don't know. That's where I kind of went, I'm like, well, what am I doing with that? Do I want people to look at it? I'm like, no, it's just a background thing. That's like, it's not a blank wall. And that's when you go, well, what was wrong with the pictures? And I'm like, nothing, I guess. I don't know. It was, it's, I think this hit a lot of people. Like I know, Jessica and Elsie over at She Podcast, they're going to every other week instead of every week. Randy last year switched his show to a daily show. There were a couple other shows I've listened to, and everybody's tweaking their format just a little bit. And I think it's just something where, I don't know, it keeps you, I don't know, something new to do. It's for me, it was kind of creative. It's like, what can I do with this?
We're kind of tinkerers. I think I would change your cable management a little bit. You got that cable that kind of comes off over your right shoulder that comes down. And I might, there's some things like that, Dave, where you can, tie that back there or clean that.
There's a hole in the pipe I could actually run it through too.
I'm notorious. Like I got so much crap behind me and a variety of things going on. So I had this sitting portrait mode, and when I got the Xbox, I wanted a monitor down here. I first set it up in the living room. Then I realized Sarah wants nothing to do with this thing. So I was like, okay, it's coming back. And the monitor I really needed to use was this one. And so actually I spun that. It's mounted to the wall. So I just spun that in the landscape and had been using that. I was going to show it this morning, but it's so bright because I have it at normal brightness. It looks like there's a nuclear explosion behind me when I turn this thing on. So, but you get, and then and I think of, I think of folks who've green screened and then they've got busy backgrounds, but they're static. And so there's a lot of things you can do, with your backgrounds to get them done. I'm slowly, if you go back and look at my videos, my office is slowly, Randy mentioned the skis. Remember I used to have skis right here. Yeah. Skis right here. And those skis got more comments. It's so funny. Like, why do you have skis in the background? Why not? Like it started a conversation, right? So you can do anything you want, Dave. That's the good news.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the first thing you should point out, this is one of the benefits of doing an audio podcast. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't have to worry about this. Because the other thing is I have just this weird little end table that I've had forever. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the most attractive thing I've ever seen. it's a place to put all my little awards there. But I'm like, we could probably lose that. That's not really needed, So
nobody cares actually. I mean, a few people will notice, like, hey, what is like what's this red keyboard here to my right? What is this thing? But for the most part, they get past it, and then you stop talking about it, and it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah. Randy says I'm going all black light and rock and roll posters.
That would be great. It has been a long time since I've seen an old black light poster. They're kind of velvety and soft, and that's a great idea, Randy. I'd pay to watch that. No, not really, but I would.
You'd have to, I guess Spencer's is the only place I know of at the mall. Like, where do you buy, of course, Amazon, but where do you buy either a black light or posters for that?
eBay xxx.com.
Yeah, exactly.
One other thought on the TVs before we jump off this subject. I had a guest, I think I've said this here, but I had a guest who had an NFL football game playing on his TV.
Nice.
During our podcast. And we never talked about it, but it was there, and YouTube flagged it.
I was going to say, because man, if anybody's going to smack you, it'll be
the NFL. Ooh, it got flagged, and it got flagged multiple times. So the live version didn't get flagged, but the recorded version got flagged 15 minutes after I uploaded it. So I uploaded it, boom, it got hammered.
I wonder how they, you know what I mean? Is it, do they, why?
I know. We never said the word NFL. We didn't talk about the game. There were no updates.
Was it playing in the background?
It was. So
was the audio playing in the background, or
no?
No. See, that's a weird one. Like,
imagine this TV right here over my right shoulder, just playing a football game. And while we're talking, we're not referencing it. It's just playing. It's in the background. Fox and commercials, they've got something where they can recognize that as a TV signal, and boom, within 15 minutes. And then the live version got flagged 2 days later, and all got taken down. Not taken down, but they got blocked. They got blocked here in the United States, right? So you got to really be, if you're going to do that kind of media kind of stuff, you do have to be careful what you put behind you, and it will get nailed. We got a call.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. We're just cruising away. Nobody ever calls in, and I look over. I'm like, holy cow, we have a call. So, ending in 5236. Thanks for calling in. What's your name and what's your question?
Hey, Dave. This is Jonathan Bloom. I just wanted to call in because I realized I'm never available for the live show, and I wanted to add on to the conversation that, like, it's amazing what you can do for your video. Like, I took a few cue lights, put it on a flood behind me, and I can change the atmosphere just by changing that. And it's the small touches here and there. And then I wanted to also mention, sometimes it's always good checking your XLR cables. I had a problem with my cables. They were coiled up, and I thought, okay, it won't have any issue. Ran into issues with my noise gate. Changed out my cable to a shorter one that wasn't running toward anything. Problem solved.
Yep. When I was playing with the Rode, I'm with you, Jim. I have a hard time with this thing's name, the Rodecaster Pro, because I want to call it the Procaster.
I want to call it a Procaster is what I want to call it.
Procaster Rode, yes. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard this weird buzzing, and I'm like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, hold on!" And I put my phone a little away from it. I'm like, "Oh, the buzzing goes away." I'm like, "It doesn't like the phone." So yeah, and then same thing. And then I noticed again a little bit of a buzz, and it was because I've got probably 15 feet of mic cable all curled up here next to, sitting right, like literally almost on the computer. And I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. So I moved that, and what was left of the buzz went away. And so cables can be, and it's weird because this is backwards. If you go to buy a 3-foot cable, it will be more expensive than a 10-foot or 20-foot cable. It's weird. The granted, once you, go ahead.
I'm saying totally. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird, but I think you will thank yourself in the end with a shorter cord, because A, there's less chance to pick up noise, and B, I don't know about you, but especially my headphone is always wrapped around the arm of my chair, and I will get up and I will move my chair, and in the process yank my headphones off my head. And I do that almost on a weekly basis, and I'm like, ugh. So
Jonathan, how are you calling in? What are you using?
I just my iPhone. I'm over on a work thing, so I'm not able to be in the studio. So you're hearing me just off the iPhone.
Just a regular phone call. You just dial the number and then put it to your ear. Are you like how 19 or how 2018 is that? You're just making a phone call?
That's cool.
I know. Well, I mean, I told him that nice TV. I say that TV is very nice. It's nice.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for that feedback. Anything else before we let you go?
No, just keep that up. And every week I listen to you, and like what I said on Twitter, welcome to the podcast rodeo. So I actually now say that verbally. And like, thankfully, no one's near me when I'm walking. Otherwise, they'll hear me say that out loud and say that.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, have a good weekend.
Thanks for calling in, Jonathan.
Oh, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See,
Well,
he's on an iPhone, and that's digital, and it should sound way better than it does.
Yeah. Now,
And I'm pretty sure it's Uber Conference
Well, not Uber. You mean Call-in Studio?
or Call-in Studio.
Yeah. Well, that, and I'm going Bluetooth. That's the other thing I want to test probably next week. I'm going Bluetooth into the mixer, and
That should be fine, though. That's
Yeah.
all digital. That's 100% digital.
yeah,
Latency, yes. Sound quality, no.
yeah.
It should be enough. Bluetooth
Yeah,
should handle that
And
pretty well.
from what I've heard, I don't think the caller sounds any better. We sound better going to the caller when I use the TRRS cable, but it seriously cuts the volume of the phone call for whatever reason. So I'm like, no, I don't want to get into that. So, but thanks.
Emily's asking does the /join still work if she wants to come in via video?
No, but what we can do, and this is why I thought about this. Jim, where do we get the link again?
For
I know
what?
I did it from the top. I just thought if anybody ever says, "Hey, can I join the video?" We just do this, and we throw it
yeah.
in the chat room. I'm like, you know what?
There you go. Yeah, you may have to copy and paste that, Emily, to get that to work for you. So yeah, in the chat room, it doesn't make a difference in the chat room.
Because I know when I go down in YouTube and click on links, it gives me links to the YouTube page and an embed button. Is there another place I can get the link besides the top of the?
Top. No, well, you can get it from our video, the window that's open, that one, or the button on the left, or in the toolbar on the actual video will do as well.
Got it. So yeah, if you want to jump in, and that's I'm glad she did that, because I was going to say, hey, I didn't set that up today, and I wasn't sure. I guess in the future I can always set it up. That way, if somebody wants to call in, they can call in 330-294-9393, or they can just go askthepodcastcoach.com/join. And then however you want to jump in, or of course there's the chat. So if there's no reason not to talk to us, doggone, whichever.
Get in here. Hey, did you show the TRRS and the TRS examples last week? Because I have really good. I've been working on this with my Xbox, trying to get my Bose Quiet Comfort 35s to be a headphone for it. And so we're showing this on video, unfortunately, audio providers. But
yeah, well,
you look. I mistakenly that the T, right, stands for tip. And then ring, sleeve, right? That's TRRS, right? And so the ones you're looking for, if it's going to be, and I call them 3 rings. That's what I call it. That's the 3 ring look, and then this is the 2 ring look. Yeah. If you're doing that, 2.5 millimeter, right? Some devices like my headphones are 2.5 millimeter.
Is it 2.5 or 3.5?
Well, no. Then the rest of the world is 3.5.
Ah.
So just know too. Sometimes you need to check that connection. This happens to be the ones that came with the Bose, and you can see the difference between the two. 2.5 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter. It's important. You need to know one won't fit in the other. And so just make sure if you're doing that, you get the right size.
Yeah. The Jonathan wants to know what you know what? That's hilarious. I hung up on myself. I went to drop Jonathan, and I'm pretty sure that I hung up on me. Let me see here. Yeah. Okay. I went to drop Jonathan, and I'm like, I look over and I'm like, wait, Jonathan's still on the phone. And I'm like, oh, it's because you deleted yourself. Well, there you go. A fun-filled skill. Yet another skill of that. If somebody, it's Jimmy already answered the question. Jonathan had asked what question or what camera are we using? And that is the Logitech C920. And they do have an interesting, if you ever want to record video, they do have an interesting program called Logi, Logi, that I finally figured out that you can turn off the logo, because I liked it. It's pretty cool. You can basically, especially if you're doing any kind of overlay where you're showing a website or something like that, you can switch between screens and such. But it had this, giant Logi logo in the bottom right hand corner. I'm like, how do you turn that off? Surely there's got to be a way. And I found out there is. I wish I could say it's in one of the menus, and you'll see where it says, hey, turn off that. I'm like, well, that's almost usable. It's kind of like OBS Lite. So it's an interesting little tool. But yeah, I've used the C920. Jim, have you ever played with the new one, the C920?
The 22s? No, I have not. I haven't messed with those yet. They've got some better resolution. It would be good to test those. The C920s now are like $50. Like you can get them dirt cheap because the other ones. I think there's some 4K and some other things associated with them. The C920s on Windows were always notorious for consuming all of your CPU, no matter what you had. And so your fans would spin up because the CPU is running at full speed. You got this video. And then, of course, you introduce fan noise. And that's always a problem with it. So I would hope I've contemplated this, just moving over to a regular camcorder, that has HDMI out, and then running that into they make these little converters that makes it go USB and puts it in. I get a lot more control, and I would be offloading the video processing onto the camcorder as opposed to my CPU doing it.
Now,
so
when you say a regular camcorder, I'm like,
like any device, any camera today, any modern camera. So it can even be one of those, the Canon or whatever that's got HDMI out. And if it can do video, now you don't want to do like some of them. This is why I like the camcorders better than I like cameras for this. Some of the cameras won't stream very long. You can't turn them on and capture. Like we can't do an hour and a half that way. That's not very efficient. Where on some of these other camera devices or camcorders, I guess is what I'm calling them, you can you basically take it over. There's also Panasonic and Sony are making some. They're pretty expensive. They're a couple $1,000, but they are making some special units just for this that move, and they have a bigger sensor and they got bigger lenses, and so there are other options. No, I don't know why I'm talking to this crowd. Nobody's going to spend that kind of money on a camera.
Not me.
Yeah, sorry I even mentioned it.
But I don't know. You never know. We have some pretty cool people that might be interested in them because they are putting out money to be an awesome supporter. How's that for a transition?
Wow, nice. Good recovery.
So we're talking about awesome people like Josh Liston over at onthebubblepodcast.com. Greg over at Debt Shepherd, if you want to, he teaches financial wellness. Jonathan Bloom, you just heard him, the one, the only, over at weeklyawesome.com. He does kind of a weekly inspiration show. Glenn the Geek Hebert over at horseradionetwork.com. Josh Rivers over at podcastingexperiments.com. Max Trescott at aviationnewstalk.com. Shane at spybrary.com. I can't wait. I can't say it yet, but Shane has a totally kick-ass because of my podcast story coming. That's amazing that I can't talk about until it's official, but if it's going to be very, very cool. Carrie Bond over at the keywestperspective.com/podcast. It's a podcast about island life and the people who live it. So if you're in Key West, speaking of beaches, if you want to go to Australia and get a podcast made, you want to go see my buddy Ronsley over at Amplify Media. Find him at mustamplify.com. And if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And if you sign up for $5 a month, send me a quick little, hey, Dave, and I will put your show on the podcast rodeo show that Jonathan was talking about. So, but here she comes. You know her, you love her. The one and only Emily Prokop from The Story Behind podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm showing people you can show up in your jammy jams, and it's fine.
I still have my jammy pants on, so let's just be clear.
Which kind of fits in nicely with your background. You've got all the little stars on your thing. You kind of blend into your background, which is awesome.
I know. I'm very goddess-like right now. But I wanted to show you guys a really cool trick that I found on podnews.net. Can I share my screen?
You can. Upper left. It's the green box.
Cool.
Right.
All right. Let me pull it up. Because on podnews.net, they have a way for you to get Apple Podcast and Google Podcast badges. It's so cool. And I just found it. So yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
Yep. So podnews.net.
Yep. You search your show. First of all, I didn't know they had these show pages.
Yeah.
It'll show where your show is mentioned, maybe. And it's like a profile page for your show. Like, this isn't a terrible thing to maybe put on your Twitter or your social media to be like, hey, here's another place you could find me. But so you go down, it'll show you where you've been on the charts and stuff. They have a link generator. It's this tiny little thing. And as soon as you open it, you get the HTML for your badges, for your sites. And I think it's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And so you would just grab that code, throw it into your sidebar or wherever you want it, and it puts both the Google Podcast and the Apple Podcast badge. Yeah, that's it's very cool. I get a lot of people emailing me going, my feed is not secure. What do I need to do? Don't worry about it yet. It's not a hassle yet. So
well, it's got podcast charts in there too. That's pretty interesting. Like,
yeah, he seems to be investigating. I don't know if working with or investigating Chartable. He seems to, because James is a huge, like, he's like Daniel, like just pegs the nerd meter when it comes to writing their own code and things of that nature. So I think he's interested in Chartable just from, I think, a technical standpoint.
I'm 18 in gadgets in Angola.
There you go.
That's pretty. Man, that's pretty great. I'm calling my mom.
It's time to start that tour, man.
Mom, I'm somebody. Mom, I'm somebody. I'm 18 in Angola.
That's wild.
Yeah, I just thought it was so cool and so easy because I've had to tell clients, all right, you have to go to the Apple website. You have to find, I think it's like podcasts.com/links or badges or something like that. And then when you download the zip file, I think it's like Photoshop files. It's not necessarily, I'm like, just give me a PNG. That's all I need. I just need the PNG. This is so much easier.
All right, walk us through that, Emily, one more time. So podnews.net, search for my podcast.
Yep.
Once my podcast comes up, then what?
Scroll down until you get to the actual podcast page where you can see how well you do in Angola.
Yeah.
And as you scroll down past all of those accolades that you've gotten, there's a little link that says link generator at the bottom.
Generator. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that will take you right there.
Awesome.
And then
That's good.
is it the one thing I want to make sure of? That's your actual link to like Apple and Google. It's not some sort of weird link where it's James links. You know what I mean? Like, he's not getting in the middle is what I want to make sure.
That's the thing. I don't see anything that necessarily says from podnews.net in the code or anything that may lead back to it.
Because that would be bad. And I don't see James is smart enough not to do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of code and Daniel can read it better than I can, but
because I thought on one hand, it'd be a really easy way to get a lot of link backs to your website.
Yeah, that's right.
So I could see as a slightly gray hat way of getting traffic to your site and choosing your rankings. And I'm like, but on the other hand, yeah. So, well, that's
a lot of code in there. That's a big, I mean, just to get those two little buttons, there's a lot. He's anticipating a lot of different things showing up. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to, that's pretty great.
And I wonder what happens if people in other countries click on it, if it'll take you just to the US. Well, he's in the UK though. He would probably make it.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine.
Do you think he optimized it? Oh man.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Well, it's for most people, like, just try it. You grab it, grab the code, go out, grab the code, put it on your site. It's pretty big. There's a lot of stuff going on in this code as I'm taking a peek at it.
Well, the other thing is, I think that works. It sounds weird, even if you're not in Google Podcasts, because James has a way of looking at your RSS feed. And if you know your RSS feed, Daniel and James were talking about that. It's like, oh, it's the D38 variation of the, whatever code. And they're like, oh, so it's some way that Google is generating your link is based on some wacky ASCII, basic code to make your link to Google. So if you know your RSS feed, in theory, you can predict once you're added to Google what your link is going to be. So that's the other cool thing is I think it's actually, and if you then click that and you're not in Google Podcasts, you are now. Like, it will somehow force it to pull it up. It's a cool thing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It won't always, because that's the thing. I've done that. I've wanted to get shows on Google Podcasts because that's the app that I use. And I've tried to go through James's link to be able to, like, okay, this person isn't in Google Podcasts. When I search, let me try it. But what it'll do is it'll give me when I finally put it in and subscribe, it'll show it like it's supposed to look. But then when I try to click on it, it'll have a little square that says no longer available. Look, it's next to
Oh.
Dave's shows.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. And nothing happens when I click on it. It'll just say something went wrong. Yeah.
Well, you guys ready to go knee deep into the weeds?
Yeah,
Speaking
do
of
it.
things that go wrong with Google, had somebody this week. It was a weird one, and they you could find their show in Google. You could download it, but you couldn't stream it in Google, which Google is set up unless you go in and tell it to download. It'll just stream. And we went to their website, would stream on Libsyn, so the file was fine, but for whatever reason would not stream in Google. And then I went in and they had not one but two advertising redirects, one to PodTrack and one to this other one called PodSite. And it turns out one was HTTPS and one was HTTP. So one was secure and one was not. And somehow Google went, huh? And that was so we made them both HTTPS, and it seemed to fix that. But to which I always just say, especially the PodTrack one, PodTrack is only going to give you advertisements. The last time I checked, if you had at least 20,000 downloads per episode. And some people go, yeah, but they have that chart thing. And again, you're not going to be on the chart unless you're getting, hundreds of thousands of downloads. I'm like, and the PodSite one about a month ago had a problem, and somebody emailed Libsyn. They're like, hey, what's going on? Nobody can download my stuff. And I'm like, which episode? And they're like, all of them. And I went, that's weird. And went over to that and like, oh, what do you know? And took out their little prefix and just went to the Libsyn file. It went fine. I'm like, yeah, that place is having a problem. So I always get a little, I understand some people want to make money and all. And I'm like, but if you're, when you have 28 downloads for your first episode, it's not really time to start thinking about monetizing your show yet.
And it was just in Google Podcasts, or was this?
It was just in Google. Yeah, it worked fine in Apple. Yeah, that's the other thing that was just like, I'm like, this is weird. And so I was like, I called out to the team. I go, anybody see? And I go, I think it's something here with the redirects. I go, that's the only thing I see that's out of the normal. And then my one boss said, hey, the one's HTTPS and the other one's HTTP. He goes, I don't know if that's going to fix it or not. He goes, but that might confuse Google. And we're like, well, let's find out. And it was fine and dandy. So it was very bizarre. So
I just added that to that code to my website. It's literally copy paste and boom, they're there.
That's
nice.
And it says you can change the width and the height, so that's really cool.
Ooh, that's even better.
Yeah.
If you want to. Well, good stuff, Emily.
Yeah, just wanted to pop in because I found that last night and I was digging through. I ended up going through a rabbit hole of like, what else does Pod News have that like I just thought it was news about podcasting. I didn't know he had all these tools.
Oh yeah, he's got a ton of stuff over there.
Yeah.
He's a big geek behind the scenes.
Thanks, James.
Emily, before you go, we got to wrap it, but you're going to be on TV. Is that what I heard?
I am. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, tell us about it real quick.
Oh,
real quick. Next week I'm taking the train into New York City to go on Inside Edition. So
there we go.
Yeah, to talk about the story behind stuff and weave it into pop culture. So, and that's going to be out in February, I think, is what they're aiming for. So
very cool.
That was an NDA, was it? We just didn't. You're not going to get.
They didn't make me sign anything, so I guess so. They want me to build the hype because it's like Brad Pitt then me, so I'll build hype.
There you go.
I don't know. I feel like I'm dating myself. Brad Pitt isn't even relevant anymore.
No, he's.
Glenn the Geek is calling in. He has some advice for you.
Okay.
Don't be boring.
There we go. Don't be.
I won't be. I'll be more nervous. I'll be like, oh my God.
Awesome.
Are the light, because that's the thing. I'm used to audio and I'm used to sitting in my office and being comfortable, but now I have to worry about like makeup. What?
Well, I would think they're gonna do that. Maybe.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, you look nice now. I don't know that I would wear my pajamas.
My pajamas.
That's awesome though. And how did that come about?
They just emailed me. They found my show and they emailed me and said, hey, I'm from Inside Edition. We're working on this piece. We saw your book. We saw your podcast. They said podcast/book. So they clearly found both. And they're like, we want to do some trivia, did you know segments on our show. So we want you to come in and talk about some stuff. Can you send us your book and some chapters and we'll listen to your podcast? And You never know who's listening. You
It's
really
so
don't.
great. That's a
Yeah.
great because of my podcast story for
I'm
sure.
gonna say I'm going to cut this out and play it in Monday's show.
See, and I don't know yet. I'm just like, I know I'm going in next week. They're not sure when. It was supposed to be Friday, but we're supposed to get snow. So, but yeah.
That's very, very cool.
Congrats. That's pretty awesome.
And-
How's the book doing?
I guess it's doing well. Again, I don't know.
So when do you find out?
I don't know. I
At the
really
end of
don't
the
know.
quarter?
I looked at my contract. I was supposed to get the first check in February. So it was released in October and I got the check in February. And I have no idea. I can look at the tracking. And Dave talked to Dave Chesson a few weeks ago and talked about the tool on his website to be able to put your ranking in to see how many books per week or per day that you're selling. And I'm selling about 4 books per day. I don't know what that translates to. Like you
That's
just get
good.
these numbers. You don't know what they actually mean. Like,
I'm lucky if I sell 4 books a month. So that's really cool.
Oh,
all right. Well, I will let you guys go into the post show.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for calling in, Emily.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Bye.
Cool.
See it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 120 books a month. I mean, that's
cool.
That's 1,000 books a year. I was talking to a publisher and he said like 10,000 is a good number, but you really write books to do what just happened to Emily, which is you do books to get on TV, and then pretty soon people will call her asking for keynotes.
Yes.
And then you asked for $5,000 or $10,000 to do those kinds of things. So,
Or you say, can you put my book in? I will do it for free as long as you put a book in every one of the swag bags.
Yeah.
Because they have like 2,000 people coming to the conference, and you're like, wow, I shot up the charts on the book chart.
right.
Because it doesn't take much. It's kind of like Apple. So, but anyway, since I'm not on the phone, I'm actually playing the music via my phone now.
Okay.
So I will do this next week on my iPad. So I'll have the jingles going into the other channel. I have my phone on this one. Life will be good. So Jim, what's coming up on the averageguy.tv?
Yeah, we just posted an episode. We talked about when is old PC hardware too old. So if you want to talk about that, because hardware lasts a lot longer than it used to. So how long can you stretch that out? So theaverageguy.tv.
Awesome. This week on the School of Podcasting, it's going to be interesting because I have an interview tomorrow. So it might be another extended because of my podcast story, or I will be talking about the potential problems of launching your podcast with a Patreon, which we talked about here 2 weeks ago. And I've done some thinking and some researching on that. I might expand on that, which is what I do a lot here on Ask the Podcast Coach. We kind of throw the idea out here and then I stew on it and then release it later. But thanks. We're here every Saturday. AskThePodcastCoach.com/live. Stick around for some post show.